What's up, YouTube? In this video, we will be talking about patterns, sequence, and series. More specifically, arithmetic patterns or sequences. So the objective of this video is to teach you to identify different patterns, use the arithmetic formula, and be able to predict the future from far. A lot of people are asking, okay, how are we able to predict the future from far? Stick with me till the end of the video and you'll see. So when we refer to patterns, what are we basically referring to, right? So let's say hypothetically we're given a set of numbers. Let's say 4, 7, 10, 13, and so on, right? So when we refer to patterns, we're basically asking the question, is the pattern from 4 to 7, or is the flow from 4 to 7 sequential? Does it make sense, or is it just a bunch of random numbers? So in this case, we can see that from 4 to 7, we had to add 3, right? And obviously from 7 to 10, we also had to add 3. And same applies from 10 to 13, right? So we can see that for us to be able to determine what the next value would be, we just have to add 3. So we have some kind of like a sequential pattern, right? But then, and from this, we'll be able to predict that the next coming value would be 16, as we just have to add 3, which is very simple. But then again, let's say, for example, we want to determine the value after the 20th number. How are we able to do that, right? And that becomes a bit more difficult. So we will use this formula, Tn is equals to A plus D bracket n minus 1, to be able to predict what the value after the 20th number will be, right? So as I said, in this video, we'll only be talking about arithmetic patterns, and the formula is this one right here. So let's basically elaborate on the formula and see how we can use this formula to determine the next pattern. So let's say the value of A. What does the value of A mean? The value of A means the first term. The first term. So in this pattern, obviously the first term was 4. So the value of A will be 4, right? And what is the value of D, or what is D? D stands for the constant difference. The constant difference, right? And what is the constant difference? The constant difference is just the value that we need to add in order to get the next term. And in this case, as you can see, it's 3 throughout. And that's the reason why we say it's the constant difference, because the value doesn't change. It's 3 throughout, right? That's 3. And what is n, or how do we better explain the value of n? So n doesn't refer to any number to be specific. For example, this in terms of n would be 1. If they would ask you in terms of n, you'd say it's 1, and this would be 2, since it's the second number that comes in the pattern. And obviously 10 will be 3, and this will be 4. This will be 4. And last but not least, this will be 5, right? So that's what n basically stands for. It just basically is a placeholder for the next term of the pattern, or not even the next term, it can be the current term of the pattern. And Tn, obviously, it just refers to everything all at once. Like, what is the value of that term? What is the value of that term when we replace n, right? So let's use this pattern as an example to be able to determine what the value of Tn is. So from the pattern, we've determined already that the value of A will be 4. So where there is A here, we're just going to replace it by 4, right? And we've also determined that the value of D is 3, plus 3 to be more specific. Pay attention, it's plus 3. We're adding 3, we're not subtracting 3 to get the next value, right? So we're going to put it like that, and n minus 1 is what follows. So here we have 4 plus 3n. So this 3 multiplies n, and obviously goes and multiplies the negative 1. And this is what we have. And if you clean up, we know that 4 minus 3 is 1. So we have 3n plus 1. So that's the value of your Tn. So how can we use this formula to be able to predict the future? So let's say hypothetically, we're able to identify that the pattern is an arithmetic pattern and it has a constant difference of 3, and also the first term is a, and we are able to calculate the value of Tn and so on. And now we want to know, after 20 terms, what will be the value of the 21st term, right? So after 20 terms, what will be the value of the 21st term? So if we're to put that in question, basically what we're looking for is the term, or Tn, after 21 terms, the 21st term, right? So how we'll use this formula, we'll say T21 is equals to 3, and wherever there is n, we're going to replace by 21 plus 1. And obviously, if we multiply 3 to 21, we get 63 plus 1, which gives us 64. So we know that T21, or the 21st term, will be 64. So we're able to use the arithmetic formula to be able to determine what the value of the 21st term will be. As I said, we could obviously use 3, add 3 to the next value until we get to 21 to be able to determine what the value would be. But that will take a long time, especially if, let's say, for example, they want us to calculate what the millionth term or the 900 and whatever term is, right? So that will be very difficult. So instead, we kind of shortcut and use the general formula to be able to predict what the next term will be. So let's go do another example and see how we can better utilize this formula to determine or predict more terms. So now, let's say we're given the following pattern: -1, 4, and 14. And the first question says, determine the 31st term of the sequence, right? So the first thing that we need to do in this case is obviously find the difference between the terms, right? Or the constant difference, since we know that this is an arithmetic pattern. So how do we know that this is an arithmetic pattern? To find the difference, or the general way of finding the difference, is to say the second term minus the first term is equals to the third term minus the second term, right? And in this case, we know that the second term was 4 and the first term was -1. So if we subtract -1, we get 5. And obviously same applies to T3. We know that T3 is 9, and if we subtract 4, which is the second term, we'll also get 5. So we do have a constant difference in this case of 5. And we know that our first term, A, in this case, it's -1. So now that we have that, we'll be able to use the general formula, which goes like A, D, and -1. And in this case, we just substitute everything. We substitute 5, which is D, -1. And from here, we just clean up where we're going to say -1 plus 5n minus 5. And that will give us 5n minus 6. That will be the value of Tn, right? And now that we have the general formula, we'll be able to use the general formula to determine what the 31st term, or the value of the 31st term, will be. So to do that, we just say T31st is equal to, and wherever there's an n, we're just going to replace it by 31 minus 6. And if you put that in your calculator, you're going to get 155 minus 6, which gives you 149. So we know that the value of the 31st term is 149. So we're able to obviously predict the future and find that the value of the 31st term is 149 using that general formula. Okay, so now the second question says, which term is equal to 244? So I'm just going to clean up here to answer that question. So now what they're basically asking us is that we have the value of Tn. We have the value of Tn. It's 244. What is the value of n? What is the value of n? And in order for us to obviously calculate a, we're going to use the same formula. We're going to say Tn is equals to 5n minus 6, right? And we're just going to substitute the value of Tn, and we already know that the value of Tn is 244, which is equals to 5n minus 6, right? So we are basically looking for 5n alone, and in order for us to do that, we're just going to add 6 on both sides. Add 6 on both sides, and we know that 244 plus 6 will give us 250. And here we know that these two will cancel. We have 5n, right? And from here, we're just going to divide both sides by 5. 5 cancels on 5, and we know that 250 divided by 5 will give us 50, and that will be the value of your n, right? So you see how knowing the general formula to a pattern can help you predict the future and just better solve the future, instead of us obviously having to say, okay, the difference is 5, the difference is 5, the difference is 5, and then now we have to determine what the value is. It will be 19, and so on and so on. We use the general formula to be able to simplify and make it easier for us to predict what the next value will be. So that's where this formula basically comes to use. So that is it for this video. In the next video, we will be talking about quadratic sequences. And yes, if you haven't liked and subscribed and whatnots and blah, 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 please like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends about it. I will see you in the next video.